came dry off the canyon that morning, dragging the dust of 1,000 broken dreams. Elijah Boone, a worn-out farmer with sunken cheeks and eyes that had seemed too much, rode his mule toward the edge of Arizona territory where men said the land still whispered with Apache ghosts. He'd spent his last $40 on a small house, a bargain too good to question. The man who sold it in the saloon at Dry Creek had a tremor in his hands and a look like he'd seen the devil himself. But Elijah was desperate. A house for $40 meant roots, meant he wouldn't have to sleep under his wagon again. He arrived at sundown, the shack standing lonely against the orange sky. The front porch leaned like it'd give up if the wind breathed too hard. A water barrel sat cracked and dry beside the door. The place looked empty until he noticed smoke rising faintly from the chimney. He froze. Someone was already here. He dismounted slowly, hand near the revolver on his hip. The desert went still, even the cicadas quieted. He took one step toward the porch and the front door creaked open. A pair of dark eyes met his, sharp, unflinching, and framed by black braids. The young woman couldn't have been more than 20. Her skin caught the sunset like burnished copper. She held a rifle, and it wasn't pointed at the ground. "Who are you?" she demanded in accented English. Elijah raised both hands. "Name's Boone. Elijah Boone. Bought this place from a man in Dry Creek." Her expression didn't soften. "You cannot buy what is not his to sell." Before he could answer, a second figure appeared behind her. Another woman, younger, with the same eyes but a calmer look. She clutched a worn blanket around her shoulders. "Alea," the younger whispered, "let him speak." The first woman's eyes narrowed, but she lowered the rifle just slightly. Elijah swallowed hard. "Look, I don't want no trouble. I paid fair coin for this place. If there's been a misunderstanding, I'll sort it." The older one, Alea, stepped onto the porch. The boards creaked under her bare feet. "This land was our father's. He built this house with his hands before the soldiers came. They took him. Then the white man came and claimed it as his." Elijah blinked. "Then the man who sold it wasn't the rightful owner." "No," she said flatly. The younger sister spoke gently. "We have nowhere else. The army burned our village." For a moment, the wind sighed through the mesquite trees, carrying the smell of smoke and earth. Elijah felt the weight of their words like a stone. He looked at the cracked roof, the bent fence, the lonely emptiness around them. "Then I reckon this house has enough room for all of us, if you'll let me stay." Alea's gaze hardened again, mistrust flaring like flint against steel. "Why?" He shrugged. "Because the land's mean, and folks don't last long out here alone." She stared at him for a long, heavy silence. Then she nodded once. "You stay, but you do not command." "Fair enough," he said. That night, the wind howled across the desert like a wounded beast. The house creaked as if remembering old pain. Elijah lay awake on the floor by the hearth, listening to the soft murmurs of the sisters speaking in Apache. He didn't understand the words, but the tone carried sorrow deep as the canyon. When morning came, he found the older sister already outside, chopping wood with a steady rhythm. The younger one was tending a small patch of beans behind the shack. He tipped his hat. "Morning." Neither answered. He went to mend the fence, patching what he could with scavenged nails. By noon, sweat ran down his back, and he caught the younger sister watching him. She offered a small smile, the first hint of warmth since he'd arrived. "What's your name?" he asked. "Naomi," she said softly. "Pretty name," he said. "Your sister always this friendly?" Naomi hid a smile behind her hand. "Alea doesn't trust men, not since the soldiers came." Elijah's hammer froze mid-swing. They heard her. Naomi looked away. They heard everyone. That evening, thunder rolled far off in the mountains. A storm was brewing. Elijah gathered firewood while Alea sat on the porch, cleaning her rifle. "You fix the roof," she said suddenly. "It leaks when the rain comes." He nodded, glad for the truce. But as he turned toward the ladder, she spoke again. "You are not like the others. You look at us without hate." "Why?" He glanced back at her, his face lined with quiet sadness. "Because I've seen what hate does to men. Took my brother, took my farm, ain't letting it take me too." For the first time, Alea's eyes softened. The storm broke that night, rain hammering the roof, lightning slicing the sky open. Naomi lit a small lamp while Alea bolted the door. Then, in the roar of thunder, came a sound that didn't belong: hooves. Elijah's head snapped up. "Someone's coming." Alea grabbed her rifle, eyes narrowing. A man's voice shouted over the storm, "Open up. I know you're in there, Boone." Elijah's blood went cold. That voice, it belonged to Harlan Pike, the man who'd sold him the house. "What does he want?" Naomi whispered. Elijah's jaw tightened. "Probably his $40 back, and maybe my hide." Another crash of thunder. Then came the pounding on the door. "You took what's mine, Boone. You got something belongs to me." Alea aimed her rifle toward the door. "He is lying. This place was never his." Elijah stepped forward. "I'll handle it." But before he could reach the door, the hinges splintered. The man kicked it open, rain and wind bursting in with him. Pike staggered in, soaked to the bone, gun in hand. "What in hell?" he started, then froze when he saw the two women. His lips curled into a cruel grin. "Well, I'll be damned. You found the little prizes too." Alea's rifle fired before he could finish. The bullet grazed his arm, knocking him back into the doorway. He screamed, dropped his gun, and scrambled into the mud outside. "Stay down," Elijah shouted, slamming the door shut again. The storm raged through the night, but Pike didn't return. By dawn, the desert lay washed clean, the air sharp with the scent of wet sage. Elijah stepped outside and found blood tracks leading toward the hills. "He'll be back," Alea said quietly behind him. "I know," Elijah said, "and next time, he won't come alone." Over the next days, they fortified the house, barricaded the windows, dug a shallow trench around the front. Naomi fetched water while Elijah repaired the roof and Alea kept watch with her rifle. The tension between them changed. It wasn't mistrust anymore. It was something heavier, something shared. That night, sitting by the fire, Naomi asked softly, "When this is over, will you leave?" Elijah looked into the flames. "Don't know. Maybe this place could use a farmer again." Alea's eyes met his from across the fire, unreadable, fierce but not cold anymore. The next morning, smoke rose on the horizon. 5 riders approached from the east, Harlan Pike and 4 of his men. "They're here," Elijah muttered. Alea checked her rifle. "We fight." Naomi clutched his arm. "They will kill us." He looked at her, then at Alea. "Not if we make them regret stepping on this land." When the first shot cracked, the desert echoed with thunder again. The men rode fast, firing as they came. Bullets split the air, splintering the porch post beside Elijah's head. He fired back, dropping one rider from his saddle. Alea's rifle barked once, clean and deadly. Another man fell, rolling in the dust. Pike's voice bellowed, "You can't hide forever, Boone. Hand over the women and I'll let you live." Elijah shouted back, "You want 'em? Come take 'em." The last 2 men charged. One reached the fence. Alea's shot took him through the chest. The final one turned to flee, but Elijah caught him with a single bullet before he vanished behind the rocks. Silence fell. Only Pike remained. He crept closer, his hat gone, eyes wild. The storm clouds gathered again overhead, black and furious. He aimed his revolver at Elijah. "You took my house, Boone." Elijah met his gaze, steady. "Was never yours to take." A click, a flash. The gun roared, but not Pike's. Alea's shot rang true. Pike's body hit the mud, the gun falling from his hand. For a long moment, no one spoke. The rain began again, soft this time, almost gentle. Naomi's eyes glistened. "It is over." Elijah nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's over." He turned to Alea, the woman who had nearly shot him once, now standing beside him in the wreckage of what was once fear and distrust. She met his eyes. "You could leave now. No one would blame you." He looked out at the desert, the empty horizon that had once promised nothing but pain. "Reckon I've got a farm to build." For the first time, Alea smiled. Days turned into weeks. The land, cruel as it was, began to soften. Seeds sprouted near the stream. The house stood steady again, and laughter, quiet but real, returned to its walls. Some nights, when the moon rose silver over the canyons, Elijah would see Alea sitting on the porch, her rifle across her knees, eyes fixed on the horizon. And he'd think, maybe, just maybe, the desert wasn't so lonely anymore. Because for $40, he hadn't just bought a house. He'd found a reason to stay alive.